Yeah. I ain't shutting up. I'ma speak. Yeah. Ninja Scroll. Speak my peace. Yeah. Yo. God created me with the mouthpiece, so I'ma use it. Never hold my tongue, I'ma speak the truth. Watch me do it. Gonna shout it out loud and clearly and speak fluent. Some may call it hate speech, but I'm only being prudent. Gonna speak about the Pope and the cult that he runs. How he and his priests are constantly raping our sons. I'ma speak about the Muslims, the real ones that do decapitate the heads of infidels. The Pope tells them to. I'ma speak about the homosexual abomination, the sexual perversion, the end of procreation. I'ma speak about climate change, the global warming scam, the plan to depopulate Earth and tax man. I'ma speak about Obama, the false hope he gave us, and how his real dad's name is Frank Marshall Davis. I'ma speak about the government and gun confiscation. Can't defend themselves, it's easier for them to take the nation.
The truth is bad behavior. All of my life I've been a slave. Now that Jesus is my savior, he set me free, now I am awake. And I ain't shutting up.
About Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes and the fakes leading the blind, they laying in wait. I'ma speak about Bruce Jenner, you call him Kate, spreading lies that the true God has made a mistake. I'ma speak about feminism, the whole plan to get women to work and tax them like a man. I'ma speak about Alpha Kinsey and what he did, use the tax money to touch and to molest kids. I'ma speak about the school system, they spin truth to indoctrinate and social engineer our youth. I'ma speak about entitlements, you think you should be given everything and you shouldn't have to work for a living. I'ma speak about how they try to keep us in check, keep us weak, watch a step, be politically correct. I'ma speak about the real God, the God of the Bible, he's alive, any others are fake and false idols.
The truth is bad behavior. All of my life I've been a slave. Now that Jesus is my savior, he set me free, now I am awake. And I ain't shutting up. I ain't shutting up. No.
About false flag attacks, Sandy Hook, Boston Marathon bombs, 9/11 covered crooks. I'ma speak about the TV and how it's programming our brains like a computer. It's part of the plan. And I'ma speak about celebrities, the modern day idols, how you need to be involved in their lives. It's so vital. I'ma speak about how it's called hate speech to preach from the Bible, but everything else is fine to teach. I'ma speak cause my beliefs you won't tolerate, and the rights that I have to be free you violate. I'ma speak about no gay gene, that's a fact. It's a choice, not a race. You can't choose to be black. I'ma speak about the war on drugs. It can't be, cause they advertise drugs every day on TV. I'ma stand for Jesus Christ, the way, truth, and life. Paid the price for the sins of this world to make right.
And the truth is bad behavior. All of my life I've been a slave. Now that Jesus is my savior, he set me free, now I am awake. And I ain't shutting up. 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 Try to silence me, but I ain't shutting up. The truth is bad behavior. All of my life I've been a slave. Now that Jesus is my savior, he set me free, now I am awake. And I ain't shutting up. 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 You can try to silence me, but I ain't shutting up. Be more tolerant, that's what I expect. Don't judge me, be politically correct. I don't wanna hear what you're trying to preach. Spread love, not hate next time you speak. Be more tolerant, that's what I expect. Don't judge me, be politically correct. I don't wanna hear what you're trying to preach. Spread love, not hate next time you speak.
I got you right where I want you, like a raw line in the field. I stalked you, creeped up on you, peeped on your aura, laying in wait, ready to pounce on you. Once I get you, you'll be a corner. Pumping on the string, you're my best performer. Got your mind in and out your corner. Forget a pot of slow heated water. I got you believing you think for yourself, but you do what I want you to. You do for me. Keep you distracted, manipulate actions of making you be who I want you to be. Lost and deceived, got you worshiping me. Blindfolded tightly so that you cannot see. Can't let you think for yourself, trusting everyone else that in me. Don't wake up from your dream.
Don't want you to know a thing. I hope you think I don't exist. Pray to Buddha, Allah, ISIS, or just be an atheist. I'll be your best friend and I will grant you each and every wish. Give you money, fame, and riches if you sign in blood on this.
Cursing up a storm, I love your filthy tongue. Chasing drugs, my mind control had just begun. Getting drunk, everything is cool, you're having fun. Going to hell with me when both of us are done. I got ya, listen to my musical artist. Stay on my preacher, you are the target. Stuck in the brain cells, already started. Mojo, so you can go rock retarded. Shoot up the club scene, ghost notice annex. Got me a whole army of drug addicts. Got enough drug dealers, don't panic. Yes, the government is on my payroll, handle it. Preachers and teachers, my network is deep and you make it so easy cause you stay a sheep. Praying the stronger, devour the weak. Show you my place, yeah, it's really unique. Make you believe that I look like a creep. I'm the angel of light on your chest when you sleep. I'm not for real at all, why me you seek? Controlling y'all every day of the week.
Don't want you to know a thing. I hope you think I don't exist. Pray to Buddha, Allah, ISIS, or just be an atheist. I'll be your best friend and I will grant you each and every wish. Give you money, fame, and riches if you sign in blood on this.
Cursing up a storm, I love your filthy tongue. Chasing drugs, my mind control had just begun. Getting drunk, everything is cool, you're having fun. Going to hell with me when both of us are done. Cursing up a storm, I love your filthy tongue. Chasing drugs, my mind control had just begun. Getting drunk, everything is cool, you're having fun. Going to hell with me when both of us are done.
Good evening, everyone. It looks like everything is working. I have the same software working as if we were on the other channel, and I probably should share my backup stuff more than I do, but here we are on the backup channel. I'm hoping that the word will get out, the message will get out somewhat. I'm not saying that this backup channel is where I want to be doing things from now on, but specifically, please go to the description box, because this will be a recording later that I'm going to put on my channel when I don't have a strike. I have a strike on my main YouTube channel, and the reason for that strike is the video that I'm dropping a link for right now. That is on Odyssey. Please go to Odyssey. That's not the link for the video. That's the link for the channel, which you'll see the video that was taken down and we were given a strike for. Now, I'm not surprised, so I'm not sitting here going, can you believe it? But I really should be stressing the backup channel a lot more. In fact, I will show real quickly the backup channel here, because it's kind of important that you guys see that this Odyssey is where I might have to go, where I'm going to be going live from now on. If YouTube ever gives me those, if I get 3 strikes, the channel goes away forever. So I will probably do this Odyssey channel from then on out. I can still stream with the same software and do a lot of the same things. So everything that I've ever done on YouTube is already over here on Odyssey. So please consider making an account and being here too. I know that everybody loves Rumble and all these other things, BitChute, but I don't know if I can get everything to carry over from YouTube. So everything I've already done from YouTube is already here on Odyssey, which is why I've chosen that to be the main channel I'm going to move to if I move to one. So it's also in the description box, and please utilize that link. Another update that NPC, if you want to talk about with me, if you want to talk about Rob Skiba, we know that he's passed away, and interestingly enough, the video that I had taken down was about the dangers of what hospitals are doing to people and why he himself probably passed away, certainly not from COVID. But anyway, welcome, Mr. NPC. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very much for your time. It's a bad
And well, there's an article from the Daily Beast. There's an article out from the Daily Beast that says he died from COVID.
his views or anything like that, but I did appreciate him.
Hang on just a second. I want to make sure everybody can hear you. I've got 5 people here. Can you guys hear NPC while he's talking?
I may be a bit low because, I'm a little congested and all, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I got the wrong speakers on, I think. Maybe I don't. No, they should be working. Can anyone tell me if you can hear NPC when he's talking?
So tonight we're discussing several things, but we'll be doing some readings from
Already, also in the...
I can hear music.
Yeah, hold on. everything to carry.
One moment, I'll maybe a bit low when she gets this sorted out.
Huh. The Skype sound is not coming through, and I don't know why.
You mean my voice?
It is if I keep my mic. I think it's acting like it's not coming through. This is very strange. So everybody, you can hear NPC. You could have heard everything he said.
Perhaps it's working.
Okay.
Phantom mute or something.
Coming through. Hang on. This is very strange. So everybody, you can hear NPC. You could have heard everything he said.
So I guess if you heard that, just
Okay.
type that in the chat.
No, I don't think you can. I don't think you can be heard unless I leave my mic open.
Oh, so yours is like the main feed then, I guess, the way it's set up.
I don't want it to be because, well, maybe it won't cause an echo, but that's very strange. Dang, I guess we should have tried this earlier.
Well,
I'm only getting one person saying loud and clear, but I don't know.
so anyway, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen. Okay. That's very odd. Okay, well, Grandpa says he can hear you, so just keep going.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'll just start off by sharing the night sky over Jerusalem like we do every week to give you guys some perspective. Right now, the only planet that's not visible is Mars, which is interesting. Shout out to Doc Michael. He dropped a link earlier today about the October horse. And so we'll read a little bit about that. But basically it talks about animal sacrifice to Mars that would be carried out around this time. And I just thought it was kind of strange. But anyway, that just happens to be the only planet not visible tonight. But we'll discuss that in a minute. Kind of reminded me of the hunt for red October, those types of things. Okay, so did I drop that link?
Nope.
No, if I did or not. Oh yeah, I did. It's just
You
it didn't
did?
turn blue for some reason. Okay.
Oh, I need to make you a mod. That's probably why.
Oh wow. Oh, this channel's new. That's right. Sure. Thanks. Glad we're figuring all this out.
Yep, I need to do that. Yeah. Okay, so give me a second. All right, it says you're now a moderator. Would you please drop it one more time?
Yeah, it worked that time. Cool. Thanks so much. Okay, so let me go ahead and close that one. And then we'll start with the Chabad.org. Here you go, guys. And this is for today, the 10th of Cheshvan, 5782. So we'll be doing some Torah portions from Genesis 12:1 and then Isaiah 40. It's kind of interesting. I had a link here about Gad, but I didn't have anywhere to fit it in. And then what do you know? Here it is, birth of Gad. Gad, the son of Jacob and Zilpah, 7th of the 12 tribes, was born on the 10th of Mar Cheshvan. He lived to be 125. It's pretty interesting. So since I have this Gad related link, I'll go ahead and share it. There's a place here in West Virginia called Gad, a town named Gad, and it was actually flooded when they created a dam in this place called Summersville. And so the lost city is located in the dam, and so it used to be known as the Gad Dam, which I don't curse, but I still find that kind of funny. Or I try not to curse. That's the one thing I won't say, if anything. But I just thought it was kind of funny. So, and here it is. So I already had the link right there ready, and there it is in the Jewish history. So I guess it was meant to share after all. So I just thought that was kind of strange. There's an entire town submerged in there, and it was flooded back in, I think, 1960. So a little bit of strange Appalachian lore there for you. And let's continue here. So there's also a couple more portions from Genesis, and then the Psalms are from 55 through 59. So I'll go ahead and I can close this.
Can I bother you to do the time and date link one more time? Because it's showing up now, but it didn't show up. It's showing up for you, but I can't see it. So, I mean, it's there. The links
it's the first of the three there.
Yeah, just share that one more time if you would, please.
No problem. Okie dokie. So this Torah portion here is Genesis chapter 12, and if you recall, these go in order throughout the year. It's said that the earth was created in September, and so that first mound of earth was the altar, and so this helped give some perspective on the lamb that was slain at the foundation of the world. So that, at this moment when all the land was being created, he was there. So we're a few weeks out from that, so some time has passed, and so always remember that what we're reading here in these Torah portions is meant to reflect the time of year. Okay, so Genesis chapter 12, and the Lord said to Abram, quote, "Go forth from your land and from your birthplace and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will aggrandize your name, and you shall be a blessing." Make his name great, and he'll be fruitful. He'll have many people. Verse 3, "And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you." The story of Balaam trying to curse Israel comes to mind with this verse 3 here, which is interesting because that particular prophecy deals with the coming of the Moshiach, as they call it, or the anointed, the king, the Messiah. So it's an interesting prophecy that he ends up giving. Verse 4, "And Abram went as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran." So this is talking about his departure from his place of origin. Remember, they were in the idol worshiping and stuff like that. So, kind of like how we're in Babylon today, right? And he says, "Come out of her, my people, lest you share her plagues." Well, this is kind of the pattern that we see, right? So he takes Abram out of there, and Lot comes up in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, just like that city was full of sin, and so he was asked to come out of it as well. It's true. Righteous people in an area will maybe stay the wrath of God, sure. But if it's definitely slated for destruction, he's going to, usher them out. And likewise, if he thinks that those people will be saved if they repent, he'll send a messenger to them, just like in the case of Jonah and Nineveh. So we can kind of see that it goes both ways. But the thing is, what's the tipping point? That's the question to ask. So, and Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had acquired, and the souls they had acquired in Haran, and they went to go to the land of Canaan, and they came upon the land of Canaan. There's also a place in West Virginia called Canaan Valley, which it's funny because people actually pronounce it Canaan Valley around here, so you really never make the connection that it's actually being named after the land of Canaan. So I've changed how I refer to it now. I call it Canaan Valley. And Abram passed through the land until the place of Shechem, until the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanites were then in the land. it's interesting that this verse comes up again, because just I think yesterday I was studying this, and it refers to the oaks in this place. There's an area where they buried all their idols and underneath an oak, for instance. These types of trees become like boundary stones, boundaries, and then stones also as boundary markers whenever they begin to set up the 12 tribes, and they use the ropes and such. Excuse me. And the Lord appeared to Abram, and he said, quote, "To your seed I will give this land." And there he built an altar to the Lord who appeared to him. So just like it's Shem after the flood, and he built the altar. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Beth El, and he pitched his tent, his sukkot, his booth. Beth El was to the west, and Ai was to the east. There we go, Ai. Remember, this gets destroyed in the book of Joshua around the time of Jericho. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and he called in the name of the Lord, which is exactly what the high priest does on Yom Kippur, Day of Judgment. The high priest will say the name of the Lord at the altar. Verse 9, and Abram traveled, continually traveling southward, and there was a famine in the land. That's the black horse, right? And Abram descended to Egypt to sojourn there, because the famine was severe in the land. Now it came to pass, when he drew near to come to Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, "Behold, now I know that you are a woman of fair appearance, and it will come to pass when the Egyptians see you, that they will say, 'This is his wife,' and they will slay me and let you live." Verse 13, "Please say that you are my sister, in order that it will go well with me because of you, and that my soul may live because of you." It's a little bit like the Purim story in that regard, which is strange because, remember, Purim also means lot. Okay, let's continue here to the next portion of the Torah. Okay, oops. Let me do this other Genesis portion first, since we're already in Genesis. That way it kind of jives better that way. So I'm going to share this one. Chapter 17. And I will establish my covenant between me and between you and between your seed and you throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant, to be to you for a God and to your seed after you. So when he made that altar and created this covenant, it is for all his generations afterwards. So he's talking about blessing him. Could very well be us listening. And I will give you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, the entire land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be to them, for a God. This is what makes me wonder if the 144,000, for instance, would be the inheritors of the land of Canaan. And so, that would be like the sheepfold gate, if you really think about it. The boundaries of the land would be that. And destruction always came from the north, where the tribe of Dan was. So you can almost think of that as like the gate to the sheepfold gate, that if it were not secure, then destruction would most certainly come from the unattended gate. So the idle shepherd that leaves the flock, right, would leave the sheep defenseless, even if they had a gate, right? It's just a thought that had occurred just now. Verse 9, and God said to Abraham, quote, and you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. just like it tells us in Deuteronomy. It admonishes us repeatedly and reminds us to bind the laws to the arm and between the eyes so that we won't forget them. And that's a practice of tefillin, which is wrapping the leather around the arm. A lot of people see that and think it's evil. Well, the thing is that you're reminding yourself of the law of the Torah when you do that. And the forehead cube has Torah portions, like what we're reading right now. They're in that cube. So they're actually meditating on this, mentally digesting it, hoping they'll get this Holy Spirit teaching them. But as we know, the Lamb is the key to that. Jesus Christ's blood gives us the Holy Spirit. So they're trying to emulate something that can be easily given to them, but at the same time, it's a way also to remember this covenant and the laws that were given also at Mount Sinai. So it's an interesting relationship there. But it also is interesting because Torah is kind of viewed as like meat, and the Gospels like milk, and then it's not kosher to mix milk and meat. So it's also intriguing for that matter. So I think sometimes the division between the two religions, as it were, it's kind of like it's almost easily explainable in a sense by the kosher laws. Verse 10, this is my covenant which you shall observe between me and between you and between your seed and after you, that every male among you be circumcised. Similar to like the shibboleth type thing in the story of Gideon, a little bit like that. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of a covenant between me and between you. Again, his people are a peculiar people, just like not tweezing between the eyes when mourning death, things of that nature. And at the age of 8 days, every male shall be circumcised to you throughout your generations, one that is born in the house or one that is purchased with money from any foreigner who is not of your seed. Those born in the house and those purchased for money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. An uncircumcised male who will not circumcise the flesh of his foreskin, that soul will be cut off from its people. He has broken my covenant. And God said to Abraham, your wife, Sarai, you shall not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I will bless her, and I will give you a son from her, and I will bless her, and she will become a mother of nations. Kings of nations will be from her. You know, that's kind of interesting, because the Jezebel spirit, the whore of Babylon, as it were, is kind of trying to emulate this. If you, and I know this is an Knievel leap, but if indeed the juice has some type of angelic DNA relationship, it could be that they're trying to remake everything in their own image with their own covenant, you know, emulating this right here, truly trying to steal the inheritance. That's interesting. Okay. And Abraham fell on his face and rejoiced, and he said to himself, quote, will a child be born to one who is 100 years old, and will Sarah, who is 90 years old, give birth? Interesting also that the question of fertility comes up here. Fruitfulness. And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael will live before you. And God said, indeed, your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you shall name him Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. Excuse me, I forgot my water across the room.
You can go ahead and get it.
Let me finish this, and then I'll get in there. And regarding Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. He will beget 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. You know, this is probably very important prophetically, and it could fit into Daniel or Revelations, perhaps. But I do note here that 12 princes. There's a Proverbs. Here, I'll go ahead and just drop that for anybody that's interested in it. Mentioned in Proverbs. Verse 21. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. So, like I was telling you, we're reading these in the time of year that they're kind of sequenced with. So he's saying right here, the angel, I think it's an angel talking to him right now, explaining to him, okay, I know you guys are old, but you know, this time next year, you're going to have a child, and here's what I want you to name. So I find it interesting that not only are they given the miracle, but they're also told what the name is going to be. I find names to be very interesting. We see here Sarah's name was changed from Sarai to Sarah, and then right after that, she's permitted to have a child, but they tell her what the name is going to be. So it's just very interesting to me that sometimes the book of names, right, has names in it on purpose. Saul was changed to Paul, is another example. And he finished speaking with him, and God went up from above Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house, and all those purchased with his money, every male of the people of Abraham's household, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin on that very day, as God had spoken with him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised of the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised of the flesh of his foreskin. So it's interesting, even though Ishmael wasn't the heir, that he was still brought into this covenant and blessed. And on that very day, Abraham was circumcised, and so was Ishmael his son. And all the people of his household, those born in the house and those bought with money from foreigners, were circumcised with him. So even his servants and such were included in this. It's very interesting reading. Okay, I'll go get my water. One moment.
Although no one asked a question, I'm still making Jeopardy song noises.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, welcome back.
Just forgot to put it inside here. Alright, so this next Torah portion is coming from Isaiah chapter 40. And did I share it? Okay, I didn't. Okay, so I do feel a little bit better, but yeah, if we don't go as long tonight, it's just because I don't feel so great, folks. So I'm doing my best to read and not be nasally. All right, so Isaiah chapter 40 begins with verse 27, and so it begins with, "Why should you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way was hidden from the Lord, and from my God my judgment passes? Do you not know, if you have not heard, an everlasting God is the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth? He neither tires nor wearies. There is no fathoming his understanding." Verse 29, "Who gives the tired strength, and to him who has no strength he increases strength. Now youths shall become tired and weary, and young men shall stumble. But those who put their hope in the Lord shall renew their vigor, and they shall raise wings as eagles, and shall run and not weary. They shall walk and not tire. Isaiah chapter 41 begins. Verse 1, Be silent to me, you islands, and kingdoms shall renew their strength. They shall approach. Then they shall speak together to judgment. To judgment let us draw near. Who aroused from the east, the one whom righteousness accompanied? He placed nations before him, and over kings he gave him dominion. He made his sword like dust, his bow like wind-blown stubble. He pursued them and passed on safely, on a path upon which he had not come with his feet. Who worked and did, who calls the generations from the beginning? I, the Lord, am first, and with the last ones I am he. I wonder if this he is the hay. Yeah, it looks like it is right there. Oops. The hay is, remember, the door or the window. Verse 5, The islands shall see and fear, the ends of the earth shall quake. They have approached and come. Each one shall aid his fellow, and to his brother he shall say, Strengthen yourself. Reminds me of Joshua 1:9. Verse 7 here. And the craftsman strengthen the smith, the one who smooths with the hammer, the one who wields the sledgehammer. He says of the cement, It is good. And he strengthened it with nails that should not move. But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, who loved me, whom I grasped from the ends of the earth. It's like the harpazo, the gathering. And from its nobles I called you, and I said to you, You are my servant. Chose you, and I did not despise you. I find this very interesting because he's talking about the nobles. So in other words, the blue bloods, right? his idol shepherds or Anunnaki or whatever you want to call them, those that have been in spiritual captivity. And he says that you are my servant. So we know that he calls his servant the branch, right? And we got the menorah with 7 branches on it as well. Some interesting parallels there. Do not fear, verse 10, Do not fear, for I am with you. Be not discouraged, for I am your God. I encouraged you. I also helped you. I also supported you with my righteous hand. That would be his right hand. So the harpazo is kind of explained here a little bit. And that sounds so much like Joshua 1:9, does it not? And so, verse 11, Behold, all those incensed against you shall be ashamed and confounded. Those who quarreled with you and be as naught and be lost. So let me reread that. Those who quarreled with you shall be as naught and be lost. Verse 12, You may seek them, but not find them. Those who quarrel with you, those who war with you, and you shall be as naught and as nothing. For I, the Lord your God, grasp your right hand, who says to you, Fear not, I help you. Fear not, O worm. Is that worm? Fear not, O worm of Jacob, the number of Israel. I have helped you, says the Lord, and your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I think I've read David referring to himself as a worm once, and so perhaps this is where he got that. Behold, I have made for you a new grooved threshing sledge with sharp points. You shall thresh the mountains and crush them fine, and you shall make hills like chaff. Oh, So this is a lot like Matthew 21:21, making the hills move and be cast and that sort of thing. Parable of the fig tree as well relates to this. You shall winnow them, and a wind shall carry them off. A tempest shall scatter them, and you shall rejoice with the Lord. With the Holy One of Israel shall you praise yourself. So he's reminding you, he's like, hey guys, there's going to be a big storm come, and it's going to crush these hills and into chaff, but you guys are going to be happy. So he's just reminding them, this has been crazy, guys, but you're going to be happy. So maybe this storm thing, the storm, as it were, that we're always hearing about. Even George Bush talked about an angel in the whirlwind, right? So this is something that may have been culminating for a while, it seems. The perfect storm, if you will. Let's see. This here is the Tehillim. So the praise for this date is associated with Psalms 55 through 59. It's really not that long. So let's read the 55 at least. Let's share this real quick. Oh, thanks. You posted the verses that I was mentioning. Okay,
I thought that would be better. I thought that would be better than trying to pull them up on the screen. Just post them in the chat.
Yeah, especially because my computer lags so bad. Thanks. Alrighty, chapter 55, verse 1. For the conductor, with instrumental music, a maskil by David. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not hide from my pleas. Pay heed to me and answer me, as I lament in my distress and moan because of the shout of the enemy and the oppression of the wicked, for they accuse me of evil and hate me passionately. My heart shudders. My heart shudders within me, and the terrors of death have descended upon me. Fear and trembling penetrate me, and I am enveloped with horror. And I said, quote, if only I had wings like the dove, I would fly off and find rest. Behold, I would wander afar and lodge in the wilderness forever. That's interesting verse. I would hurry to find shelter for myself from the stormy wind, from the tempest. There's that theme again. That's what I really like about this website, because if I were to read, it would take almost your whole life maybe to realize that these things interrelate, but it does a really good.
Oh, our connection's bad. There he is. You back?
Yeah, I could still hear you talking to me, so I don't know what happened.
You're back.
I guess we're doing too much Torah talk, and the Gremlins don't like
too much Jesus talk.
It may not be much longer before that gets censored too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't know where it left off at, but I just found verse 9 here very interesting here, that it keeps bringing up this stormy wind and the tempest, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about here in Acts, more especially, but it also comes up in Revelation 17 and 18. Consume, O Lord, confuse their tongue. Oh, just like the Tower of Babel, verse 10 here. Consume, O Lord, confuse their tongue, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they encircle her upon her walls, and iniquity and vice are in her midst. Treachery is within her, fraud and deceit never depart from her square. For it is not the enemy who taunts me that I could bear, nor my foe who raises himself against me, that I could not hide from him. But it is you, a man of my equal, my guide and my intimate. Together we took sweet counsel. We walked with the throng to the house of God. May he incite death upon them. Let them descend to the pit alive. For there is evil in their dwelling within them. As for me, I call to God, and the Lord will save me. Verse 18, evening, morning, and noon, I lament and moan, and he hears my voice. He redeemed my soul in peace and battles against me because of the many who were with me. May God, he who is enthroned from the days of old, Selah, hear and humble those in whom there is no change and who do not fear God. He extends his hands against his allies. He profaned his covenant. Smoother than butter are the words of his mouth, but war is in his heart. His words are softer than oil, yet they are curses. Cast your burden upon the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous man falter. And you, O God, will bring them down to the nethermost pit. Bloodthirsty and treacherous men shall not live out their days, but I will trust in you. It's really interesting. He mentions pit a couple of times here. And in Revelations 9, we see this king ascending out of the pit. And that's, of course, this locust king that will be have dominion over the four corners of the harvest. Not the first fruits, however. And I didn't bring up a link for this tonight, but I noticed that the name of the juice passport is really starting to become kind of standardized, and they call it the Green Pass. So if you go to Revelation 9, you can really see the emphasis put on the green mark that will keep these locusts from plaguing people. But it's kind of ironic because it's here they are saying you got to get the juice and the charagma, which is the proof of the mark, in order, and they're calling this the green passport or the green pass. And it's kind of ironic because, I mean, according to the scriptures, is those who do that are going to get plagued, and here they're. So it's funny. It's like an imposter mark of sorts. I don't know. It kind of boggles my mind that they would even call it that. Maybe they're just using it as like green as go, and it's just that simple, I guess. But I get, there's always. It just seems like there's always something spiritual to it when you have that lens. So I would encourage folks to read into Revelation 9 within the context of the green pass or green passport. Now that started off in Israel, but I've noticed it's now in France, I think, as well, and maybe Italy, but I'm not real certain. So it seems like it might be the green agenda kind of thing, because this all kind of comes back to the carbon tax, which is carbon has 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. So it is very much, it makes sense, I guess. Anyway, we have some news here to share. So, and I won't be reading all of these links. I just like to read the Torah portions more completely. So, and Revelation and Acts. So we'll be reading from these. So here's the latest on old Jen Psaki. Circle back, Psaki. So she's in breach of the Hatch Act, which is kind of funny because this is the kind of stuff that they were going after Mr. Flynn about, things of this nature. So let's see what her particular offense is. Mind you, she owns some of the Evergreen stock, which I didn't even think about till just now. So here we are with the. Maybe you can find a link on that for me, Aaron. But here we are with the all the shipping container vessels out in the ocean. I wonder how many of these she owns and her friends own, because a lot of them are invested in evergreen, which, you know, I did learn that when we think of evergreen, we think of pine, right? Or maybe cedar or a few others, but you know, Christmas trees are traditionally pine. And of course, we've read Daniel 4 not long ago when it talks about the great tree that was hewn down, and it compares this also in Isaiah, I think, to like Lucifer, you know, who confused the nations and did all these bad things. Well, it seems as though that you know, when you do that, you're participating in some type of praise to this entity. And so I think the evergreen is a tip of the hat to that. But then also I read about the yew tree, which is also an evergreen. And it happens to also be toxic and deadly to humans. And they would use that as some type of, you know, like making medicine from the poison kind of principle, Aaron, like maybe even if you were using snake venom to create a anti-venom or whatever. So it's kind of like that. They use the tree's toxic properties to somehow create like a panacea, and it was supposedly linked to like the Philosopher's Stone and stuff. But that tree is typically found in cemeteries, the yew. And I guess even just sleeping under it could kill you because it like emits gas or something. So it's no joke, apparently. But I just found that very interesting. So when you're doing your research and your deep dives on these folks, don't forget about the evergreen and the possibility that the evergreen itself could be actually a reference to the yew tree, which is Y-E-W. Some food for thought. Don't eat the yew. All right, so an ethics watchdog organization on Friday filed a complaint against White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, accusing her of violating the Hatch Act. In its filing with the Office of Special Counsel, the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics said Psaki violated the act by endorsing the campaign of Terry McAuliffe, who is seeking to regain his seat as governor of Virginia. Oh, they want to keep that place liberal for sure. Okay. The Hatch Act prevents federal government employees from using their office to campaign on others' behalf. The alleged violation happened during Thursday's daily press briefing when a reporter asked Psaki about the Virginia election. She initially said she would make an endorsement for McAuliffe from the podium, appearing to acknowledge that doing so would be an ethics violation. However, we're going to do everything we can to help former Governor McAuliffe, and we believe in the agenda he's representing, she then said. Noah Bookbinder, that's a strange name. Noah Bookbinder,
That's a really
president
weird name.
of Watchdog. It almost sounds like a made-up name, honestly. Yeah. Okay. Bookbinder, by the way. Every book has a spine, just like us. So, you know, it's kind of an interesting way to relate. Okay, so president of the watchdog known as Crew said the Trump administration systematically co-opted the government for the president's re-election. Man, I can't even stand to read some of this stuff because it's just so ridiculous, the minutia. But anyway, that's the article for her. I just noticed that she was in trouble, so. But I'm glad I brought it up because evergreen.
Just to let you know, all I found from her, I didn't find anything about her owning stocks, but I find something about her being a director or officer of of Evergreen Consulting LLC.
That's actually worse, but yeah, I was incorrect. She's actually an officer, apparently.
Yeah, it says organizer and governor of the corporation Evergreen Consulting LLC.
So you wonder why, you know, they're really stacked in this, aren't they? They got a lot to lose. Man.
I would share the link, but it made me click some things that most people would feel uncomfortable with, so I figured I'll just leave it. But you can search it. Just type in Jen Psaki Evergreen Consulting. Just type that out.
Yes, Brenda, correct. This HRC Secret Service code name was Evergreen as well. So you'll find it. Now that you've heard about it, you probably see it all over the place. But they're making such a big deal about Christmas this year because of the shipping container crisis and so on and so forth. It's obviously a manufactured crisis, and makes you wonder, anyway, Black Horse vibes, I guess you could say. But it makes you wonder what could be out here in the ocean, that they could easily start attacking these ships and creating all sorts of chaos. I mean, this could go a lot of different directions, honestly. But this is what prompted me to look up about Revelation 18. So we'll be reading about that tonight, because until this happened, it didn't really, it seemed like it's like sometimes prophecy seems like a distant thing until boom, here it is. So this could be an interesting fulfillment of that. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So this story is from RT. So it's saying here as a headline: U.S. Treasury Deputy Secretary warns unvaxxed Americans that shortages will continue until everyone is jabbed with the Pokemon. So it seems like they're going to hold the economy hostage until they force it on everybody. So I think of the extra peer pressure. And now all the heathens, of course, are going to be upset that they can't celebrate Christmas and Halloween. And, it's funny because even on Fox News, they kind of lump Halloween and Christmas in together. So they're all pagan holidays anyway. But anyway, so there's the pressure of that's going to build. You take away people's holidays, that's when they really start to get upset. But it's also the spirit in them that's getting upset, you see. So like this, it craves the worship and adoration. So we can be seeing, again, that's how we're going to read from Revelation 17 and 18. It talks about how the whore is actually destroyed, and that God puts it in their hearts to destroy and consume her with fire, etc. So, all right, so the Deputy Secretary at the U.S. Treasury has put Americans on notice that the only way to end the plague of empty shelves around the country is for every resident to be juiced with the Pokemon. The frank warning came off as a threat to many. Well, yeah. So, I mean, this dark winter stuff's starting to really feel... that's the vibe I'm getting from this. Which, by the way, your new channel, or your backup channel rather, had a nice video on it about the division, and its storyline pretty much mimics perfectly what we're going through right now. So I'd encourage anybody that maybe likes video games to give that a watch, even just on the YouTube video, or maybe even play it, I guess.
Oh yeah, I could.
And the an interesting thing also, the symbol for the division is an eclipse, just like this Hierophant thing. And of course you see the eclipse symbol in a lot of different things, but I did notice the division features that same thing. So I haven't had the time to do it yet, but I'm going to look at if anybody does research in celestial matters, maybe check out some of the future eclipses just to see what dates they might be anticipating themselves. I think there's supposed to be an eclipse in December. So, that could be the one they're really focusing on. Who knows? Oh, and since we're talking about celestial matters in that regard, a reminder that Fauci, whose name is Sickle in Italian, his documentary on the Pokemon and his personal journey as a Pokemon trainer, that documentary was released between the harvest moon and the hunter's moon. So the hunter's full moon is at the end of the month. The harvest moon was at the end of last month. So somebody's name whose name means sickle. I don't know. To me, that seems a little bit staged, almost. So the hunter and the reaper. So he's a reaper, essentially. So when we think of death, right, we think of the reaper. And it's funny, too, because while I was working the other day, I did visit a family, and they had this, they were really excited about this novelty they had. It was like a super hot tortilla chip, and it used Carolina Reaper peppers. So I kept getting all this Reaper symbolism thrown at me this week. So I didn't know if maybe I should mention that, but anyway, Christ talks about the angels being the reapers. So we got to really pay attention to the fact that some of these people may very well be literally possessed and just doing what they're designed to do. And our job is to just recognize it and get out of the way. Because it looks like this is getting pretty intense. Wally Agemo, the Biden administration's second highest official in the Treasury Department, has appeared to publicly blackmail the still sizable portion of Americans who have not been juiced against the charagma. And that's another thing to mention, folks. I keep interrupting myself, but these are really interesting things to mention. So that word right there is an acronym, and so it means Certificate of ID, and of course this was in 2015. Now remember, 19 is the Apollyon number. It's also the number of years in a lunar metonic cycle as well. So keep those things in mind as far as Apollyon and Revelation 9 is concerned. So this could be like the king they're trying to summon onto the earth, right? It's kind of how it seems to me. And those who have been marked already, those are, like when you go out and mark trees to be hewn down. I notice people are cutting a lot of trees down here lately. So I guess it's the season to just go and do that, right? So, the trees are being marked, the ones that are going to be cut down. And so it kind of reminds me of the parable of the wheat and the tares. And so in Matthew 13, wheat and tares, and then also the Ezekiel 9, 4, when they go through the city and mark the righteous people on the forehead. And so that also has a lot of similarities to the Revelation 9 mark as well. So keep those things in mind when you're studying this topic. Man, this is crazy. Okay, so this is going to relate. I had a video of the Joe Biden speech. I think I sent it to you earlier. This might be a good time to play some of that.
I think you sent it to me on Instagram, though.
Oh.
I might be able to pull up my Instagram on here. Let's see.
I thought I sent it to you on the...
Oh, you may have.
Well, hold on, because I told you there was like a couple timestamps or something like that. Bear with me, folks. I want to make sure that this important stuff gets shared. I found it. Right here it is. Let me go ahead.
I do have it.
This.
Do you want to show it, or do you want me to?
I got it.
Okay.
It's at like minute 8. So let me skip the first 8 minutes because it's just like showing a... it's pre-gaming it a little bit for 8 minutes. Now, this speech is long. I don't necessarily need to show it all, but there's some parts in this that I want to... It is very important, though, because he talks about the Build Back Better stuff, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. And he also references, like, the shortages and stuff like that. So I do want to, like, focus on this just a little bit. And there's no music or anything in this, so it shouldn't be an issue playing this.
Who knows anymore?
So, okay. Hold on. It's lagging really badly. Maybe it would be better for you to do it, I guess.
Okay.
Let me just drop
You
this
said
in.
go to minute 8?
Yeah. Oh, did you find it?
Yeah, I have it.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and X this one then.
And with the help,
Hold on. Let me see if my
Sorry,
sound is
guys,
working.
I didn't have that link up already.
holidays coming up, you might be wondering if your plan to buy will arrive on time. Well, let me explain.
Again, the
Supply
focus on
chain
Christmas.
essentially-
Like, why should we even care, right? But still,
Okay.
I'll be quiet for a minute.
How it is, and how the material and parts get delivered to a factory, so we can manufacture things and manufacture it here. How we move things, how a finished product moves from a factory to a store to your home. And today we have an important announcement that will get things you buy to the shelves faster. I'm joined by the Executive Director of the Ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, Gene Soroka, and Mario Cordono. I apologize, Mario. Well, let me explain. Supply chains essentially mean how we make things and how the material and parts get delivered to a factory, so we can manufacture things and manufacture them here. How we move things, how a finished product moves from a factory to a store to your home. And today we have let me explain. Supply chains essentially mean the Port of Los Angeles announced today that it's going to begin operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This follows the Port of Long Beach's commitment to 24/7 that it announced just weeks ago. 24/7 system, what most of the leading countries in the world already operate on now, except us. The ports of Los Angeles, operate on now, except us, until now. This is the first key step toward moving our entire freight, transportation, and logistical supply chain nationwide to a 24/7 system. And here's why it matters. Traditionally, our ports have only been open during the week, Monday through Friday, and they're generally closed down at night. Operate on now, except us. Matters. Traditionally, and here's why it matters. Traditionally, our ports have only been open during the week, Monday through Friday, and they're generally closed down at nights and on weekends. By staying open 7 days a week, through the night and on the weekends, the Port of Los Angeles will open over 60 extra hours a week will be open. In total, that will almost double. And here's why it matters. From earlier this year. That means an increase in the hours for workers to be moving cargo off ships onto trucks and rail cars to get to their destination. And more than that, night hours are critical for increasing the movement of goods because highways are less crowded in the evening, at night. In fact, during off-peak hours in Los Angeles from earlier this year, in the evening, at night. In fact, than during the day shift. So by increasing the number of late night hours of operation and opening up for less crowded hours when the goods can move faster, today's announcement has the potential to be a game changer. I say potential because all of these goods won't move by themselves. For the positive increase, then during and move the goods. On this score, we have some good news to report as well. Today, Walmart, our nation's largest retailer, is committing to go all in on moving this product 24/7 from the ports to their stores nationwide. Specifically, Walmart is committing as much as a 50% increase in the use of off-peak hours over the next several weeks. Additionally, FedEx and UPS, our nation's biggest freight movers, are committing today to significantly increase the amount of goods they're moving at night. FedEx and UPS are the shippers for some of our nation's largest stores, but they also ship for tens of thousands of businesses all across America. Their commitment to go all in on 24/7 operations means that businesses of all sizes will get their goods on shelves faster and more reliably. Accordingly, according to one estimate, together, FedEx and UPS alone move up to 40% of packages in America, up to 40%. And other companies are stepping up as well. They include Target, Home Depot, and Samsung that have all to ramp up their activities to utilize off-peak hours at the ports. So, the commitments being made today are a sign of major progress in moving goods from manufacturers to a store or to your front door. I thank my supply chain disruption task force, which we set up in June, led by Secretaries Buttigieg, Raimondo, and Vilsack, and by my Director of National Economic Council, Brian Deese. I want to thank them for their leadership. And I especially want to thank Joe Procari. I think Joe's done one heck of a job, my special envoy specifically on ports, who's been working this issue with all the stakeholders for the past several weeks. I also want to thank the directors. I want to thank Gene and Mario again and the mayors of Los Angeles. Especially want to thank Joe Procari.
Got the gist of it out of there, so I can now mention those things. So, you heard him talk about Walmart doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week type of shipping. He mentions Target. There might have been another business that he mentioned by name. But of course, what's really good about that? Are we going to continue to strangle all the small businesses across the United States in favor of these big box stores? And so somebody, I think, in the chat here mentioned about the FEMA camp type situations that could be resulting from this type of thing. Just training people to go to these, big box stores where the scarcity and everything's being controlled and monitored. And of course, they're not even going to let you in these places unless you're juiced up, right? And so they're blaming the whole cargo ship buildup on people not being juiced. How does that affect anything, right? Unless, of course, you're imposing laws in California that force these employees out. So now you don't have employees to unload them. Is that the argument they're trying to make? So you see where they're really creating the narrative. It's not the truth. It's their version of the truth. So I think it's kind of interesting they're going to start literally using the weight of the economy against believers, which is what the Revelations talks about. I mean, it's clearly an economic type deal that we're dealing with here. And again, the charagma, which is the word used for mark, is the proof of it. So in order to participate in this system or society, you have to have the proof of your citizenship or allegiance to it. So I'd say that very, very soon we're going to see the image that demands worship and those sorts of things. We're going to see that kind of thing cropping up here very, very soon, I think. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. I mean, and another thing, we may not be around to see it, right? Because whether we're taken up into the sky or we're leaving the cities and going into the forest, I mean, some of this stuff could be happening. We would be kind of clueless anyway. So either way, we're not really supposed to see some of this stuff. But anyway, let's continue here, because he did mention some other things as well. Like he had these secretaries working on things. Buttigieg, who has no experience with transportation whatsoever, he's now in charge of transportation. His solution was, you should just order everything earlier, and then if you don't, basically you're an idiot for not doing that, and so on and so forth. So seems like they're just trying to work with large corporations to solve all their problems so that they can save face and PR. So it's kind of interesting in a way, which really is fascism. Let me boil it down to what it is. Corporations working closely with the government. You got insider trading also going on with Pelosi. That was brought up the other day. Of course, I'm sure this is just one of many, but Visa had wanted to get some legislation passed that would end up benefiting them tremendously. And so then her and her husband bought a bunch of Visa stock just prior to the law going through. And then, of course, they doubled their money on these IPOs. And that, of course, was just one of many that they probably participated in. So, you know, they're trying to create these crises so that then they can capitalize and benefit on them. So, like, when people say that they don't like capitalism, this, that, and the other, and they're all in favor of this communism and stuff, well, nobody's in favor of what is going on with that, but that doesn't mean that the answer to it is communism, because the system we have would actually work pretty well if you just didn't have people at the top doing that. And see, that's the sad thing, is that you still have that same behavior going on in the fascist type thing, because you got these corporations and politicians working so closely together. So that's really kind of why I think we'll see the Walmarts being FEMA camps, basically. It's because it'll be essentially a fascist type thing. But anyway, I don't want to get on a tangent too much, but I don't think this is something that's going to go away, because I think that once they have this type of pressure, they're just going to start ratcheting and ratcheting and ratcheting. And of course, there'll be no true relief for the people that even got juiced. They're just going to now be living in rationed 1984 type lifestyle. So, but this is the whole reason that you should be preparing, and now and before this even, because you want to be fighting for not even good food in these supermarkets. The idea would be to be able to grow your own food, so on and so forth. So hunt, which that kind of behavior is becoming outlawed in other countries too. So let's go ahead and read this part right here, because he talks about the game-changing nature of what he's doing. So this could be setting some really dangerous precedents. So the Biden administration has attempted to address the supply chain problem by calling for the port of Los Angeles to run 24 hours. But while he praised his own promise move as a, quote, game changer, the executive director of the port has made it clear that there is no timetable in place for the promised schedule shift. Meanwhile, Biden's cabinet has come across as woefully out of touch. The White House Chief of Staff, Ron McClain, for example, talked down on the idea of empty shelves as a high-class problem this week, eliciting criticism from both left and right. The Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, has been quietly vacationing. It seems like all these people are always on vacation. I haven't had a vacation in 2 years or more. If you had this job, you should just assume you're never going to get a vacation, like, unless things are running well, right? Anyway, quietly vacationing on paternity leave since mid-August, leaving the country without even a semblance of logical oversight, as the cargo clog shows no signs of dissipating. It's interesting, too, because the Suez Canal blockage was kind of like a harbinger of sorts of this. Wouldn't you agree? Labor shortages are being felt far beyond the U.S., though often for similar reasons. In Italy, thousands of protesters turned out to block cargo ships from unloading their bounty earlier this week. The demonstrators were outraged over the country's adoption of mandatory juice to work policy, similar to that threatened by the Biden administration. And the UK government has begged lorry drivers to return to work even luring foreign drivers in with temporary visas, as the government frets over its own empty shells issues. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to fix our labor shortage problems in a similar manner, while disenfranchising actual citizens. Probably allow for non-citizens to take these jobs on the ports, and probably truckers and who knows what else. Which, when you think about the loose border down south, and then them doing stuff like that, that means they could be putting, folks into hospitals, trucks, ports, like all the infrastructure throughout the country could be. You could have sleeper cells all across the United States because they don't even control the border down south. I think that's probably what they're leading toward, and then they'll probably start blaming all that on us. I'm sure somehow it'll be the unjuiced's fault, without a doubt. It's part of my speculation. It's just nothing seems too ridiculous anymore. Australian truckies have united with other unions to exert pressure on the government, which has kept cities like Melbourne under lockdown for months despite vanishing few reported cases of chiragma. The government was already floating policies like no jab, no job over a year ago, and has led the way in leveraging the pandemic to turn Five Eyes democracies into police states. Well, that's strange. They didn't mention this until the very last sentence of the article. Five Eyes nations that's cicada. Cicadas have 5 eyes. So basically, this is your CIA information sharing countries that there's 5 of, which Israel is the 6th of, the 6th eye. They've even referred to themselves that way. Netanyahu has. So, a very interesting article I wanted to share with folks, because it's like they're creating this and then blaming it on somebody. It's really quite an interesting scapegoat situation we have ourselves in here. And of course, in that speech, I think he even mentions Build Back Better. So I wanted to not linger on this too much, because it's always in development, something we can visit again. But I think that this does help to explain why we're seeing this right now. Is because he's just doing his part in the Build Back Better thing. Well, it's like, what do you mean Build Back Better? Did they have to destroy something first to build it back better? I mean, why? Was it not already better? You know what I mean? So it brings all these interesting questions to the mind, like what exactly is going on here. And so if you're wondering why they're trying to shove this huge spending bill through, which I think they might have actually succeeded in doing finally, because I've heard Nancy Pelosi set the deadline for Halloween on the infrastructure bill. Interestingly enough, they probably all had rituals planned and didn't want to be having this on their minds, So anyway, so if you want to read a little more about Build Back Better and what this plague is doing across the world, it's basically the globalist agenda, and this is going to lead straight into the carbon tax credits and universal basic income and those types of things, the rationing of resources, so on and so forth. If you produce too much carbon, they'll turn off your card, that sort of behavior. And then if your state happens to have an interstate running through it, then you're going to get taxed more heavily because you have more carbon pollution, and so on and so forth. So these are just the types of things that are being kicked around and discussed. These folks are totally out of touch. And of course, the Green New Deal, Green Agenda stuff is creeping in and all this, and it's all reinforced with that type of stuff too. So, and of course, we see the spokesperson for that, old Greta, sporting the black goo. I think we talked about that maybe a week or two ago. So, I don't know, man. Okay, so we're in the October. We mentioned the October horse a little bit. Yes, Pia, exactly. Build Back Better does look a lot like 666. which he said that even right before he left for Rome. You know, he even said he didn't care how long it was going to take. 6
6 weeks,
minutes.
6 minutes, 6 days, something like that.
Yeah. So it just shows that he had it on his mind. I'll read a little bit of this because I found this pretty interesting. In ancient Roman religion, the October horse, the Equus October, was the animal sacrifice to Mars carried out on October 15th. Well, wouldn't you know? That was yesterday. Coinciding with the end of the agricultural and military campaign season, the rite took place during one of 3 horse racing festivals in honor of Mars, the others being the 2 Aquaria on February 27th and March 14th. 2 horse chariot races were held in the Campus Martius, the area of Rome named for Mars, after which the right-hand horse of the winning team was transfixed by a spear, then sacrificed. Well, this is interesting. The horse's head, kaput, which is German for broken, and the tail, cauda, were cut off and used separately in 2 subsequent parts of the ceremonies. The neighborhood staged 2 neighborhoods staged a fight for the right to display the head, and the freshly bloodied cauda was carried to the Regia for sprinkling the sacred hearth of Rome. So, well, that's interesting. Okay, so much like how during the Day of Judgment, the high priest of Yah would go into the Holy of Holies and sprinkle blood on the mercy seat, and that would be lamb's blood, I think, lamb's blood or goat. But much like that, here we have them doing this for the Roman, their Roman equivalent, if you will, only they're using horses. It's quite strange. Sacred Hearth of Rome. So that's the Vestal virgins. And so, okay, basically like your stove. Think of it like that. In your modern day home, this would be horse blood all over your stove and eating horse, I guess. That's kind of weird. But anyway, that's what they were doing. So I'll read this and digest it a little more and see what I can get out of it. But thanks for sharing that, Doc Michael. That was pretty cool. But again, remember the black horse is the one that's economic. So with this festival right here going on, we know that this is what those folks, they're into, is all these old forms of paganism. And another thing to mention is that this is among the 7 hills of Rome that this stuff's taking place. And I do have a link here to remind everybody about I'm not sure where it's at here, but I'll remind everybody about the gates of hell actually being on display in Rome this month. And some folks, how some folks say that the Feast of Trumpets just started and Day of Judgment's upon us, and then it's Tabernacles. So there's people saying that, in which case the period of time that the gates of hell are on display is during the time of awe, which we talked about in September. The days of awe is when the gates of heaven are open. So it is kind of interesting to me that they would put the gates of hell on display during this time of awe, if that's the correct calendar. But even so, it's still there. But anyway, just thought I'd mention that. Here is a site that you can track all the ships. So if you want to keep a closer eye on, yes, Gates, exactly. Mr. Bow Gates and Fauci the Sickle, both, teaming up. And Janus is that god of gates and the beginning of endings and so on and so forth. So I'd say that the fact is that this gates of hell is on display with the Quinero Hill. So that's the one associated with Janus and the Locust King. So I'd say they're trying to usher him in with all the global chaos and everything. Think of it like a global magic spell, I guess, I think is what they're really doing, setting the stage, if you will. Okay, so, you can monitor ships this way. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'm not real experienced with this website, but there is a legend here that can kind of show you like what you're dealing with. So if you want to just look at cargoes, there's containers, so on and so forth. So it can be interesting to visit this once in a while and monitor just what's going on. We know that the backups are mainly occurring here on this California side, but I think that's mostly because of Gavin Newsom and his melodic mandates. Of course, he's just playing the Build Back Better drum and following, marching orders. It's interesting also that his daughter didn't get the Pokemon, and here he's forcing it on everybody in his state. So you gotta love it, folks. Okay. All right, so this is very relevant, I think. Revelation 8. Well, let's read 17 first, because after all, wait a second. I got two of them. Because after all, 17 is before 18. So let's read it first. Okay, there it goes, finally. Yes, the two-faced. Yes, indeed. Past and future, they say, and the doors would remain. The doors of Janus were for war, just like Mars, and so they would only be closed in time of peace. Otherwise, they'd be left open, I think, in times of war. Okay, so. So in Revelation 9, it talks about opening the pit, right? And so I don't know, man. That could actually be a pretty legit ritual they're trying to pull off. Who knows? Okay, so Revelation 17, the woman on the beast, verse 1. And there came one of 7 angels, which had 7 vials, test tubes, who knows, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Could this be referring to the Pokemon juice? Making everything unclean? And just like in the days of Noah, right? There was no flesh that was it was all corrupted, right? So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon the scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Awe. This is awe, right? We're in the time of awe, according to some. While the gates of hell are open. All right, so since we're on that topic right there, let me share this real quick. Okay, so the tech gate, gate being in the title, that was a coincidence. I didn't plan that. Okay, so Biden confirms he will meet the Pope in Rome. We kind of touched on this last week. But this is actually happening right now too, so I wanted to share this topic again, just in case there were some things that didn't notice the last time. Okay, so he'll meet with the Pope at the Vatican during the G20 summit as the president fights to protect abortion rights, and Catholic bishops threaten to deny communion to politicians who support terminations. So kind of interesting what's going on there. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will meet with Pope Francis when he's in Rome later this month to participate in a G20 leaders summit. Mind you, this is in Rome, where the gates of hell are on display as they're meeting. The White House confirmed Thursday that the President and First Lady will visit with the Pope in the Vatican on October 29th. Again, remember, the Vatican is literally in the midst of 7 hills. They surround Rome, and they created all the mystery pagan religions that are all over the earth today. They can all be traced back to Rome. So this is literally the mother of harlots that we're reading about here. It's a good possibility that we're talking about Rome right here. So just pay, and not to mention Vatican also mandated Pokemons. So they're playing right along. Their meeting comes during Biden's campaign to protect abortion rights and a threat by canceled Catholic bishops to deny communion to pro-choice politicians. They will discuss the They will discuss the Pokemon pandemic. Wild Pokemon everywhere, guys. Climate change and caring for the poor, says Jen Psaki. Biden will go to meet with the world leaders at the G20 on October 30th and 31st, which is the deadline for the infrastructure bill. But again, I think they passed it already. And then travel to the COP26, which I think that's the climate summit, actually, in Glasgow on November 1st and 2nd, which that's All Saints Day, by the way, the day after Halloween. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi set Halloween as the deadline to get Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill and reconciliation bill across the line, which it's kind of ironic they even call it that, because a relatively small amount of the money even goes to infrastructure in the first place. So this is a misnomer to call it that. First of all, this is an omnibus bill. This is not even a budget reconciliation bill. This is the largest bill in history. So I doubt many people that are voting on it have even read it. I heard the Republicans broke ranks and they started, voting for it. So they probably just made their dirty deals, and because election season's coming up, and they don't want to be accused of not following through on their promises and this and that. But they can kick the can down the road and raise the debt ceiling. Sure, why not, right? So this is where we hear Janet Yellen from the Fed, rather. She keeps talking about how we have to keep the debt ceiling raised, or we'll lose our status, the U.S. dollar, rather. Will lose its status as the reserve currency. So, they're threatening national security and instability and things like that. The sky is going to fall, right? Well, it really is going to fall. In Revelation, it talks about that. But anyway, this is the talk of minting $1 trillion platinum coin, and that sort of thing. They're really creating a situation. The debt is so high at this point, it can never be repaid. If they raise interest rates, the amount of money that's out on loan it's already, you can't pay it back already, but then if they increase the interest rate just a little bit, which is all they can do at this point, then it would throw everything to chaos. Well, the problem is they keep bailing out these corporations and such, instead of bailing out people. No, they shouldn't even be bailing out the people necessarily. It's just that, it's clear to us what's going on. Obviously, I'm preaching to the converted, as they say. But anyway, these jerks, especially this one here, man, his son was getting questioned here recently too, for the dealings he had. He had a checking account linked to his son, so this stuff's all finally coming out. I think they've gotten through their Build Back Better omnibus agenda. he was probably a one-trick pony. I'd say they just wanted to get him in there long enough to do the Afghanistan blunder, the border blunder, and the infrastructure blunder, which also contains the juice Pokemon mandate for over 100 employees, which is what prompted the airline crisis, the cargo ship crisis. All these things that are happening are all because of this idiotic infrastructure bill that he's pushing through. So I would honestly expect to see him eliminated from office pretty soon. They'll probably use the Hunter Biden stuff, lame duck. I mean, they got a lot of levers to pull with this idiot. So I don't know. Just kind of look to see what happens after that. Because if they play their cards just right, they could end up having Kamala and Nancy Pelosi be basically president and vice president. And then imagine the horrors. I mean, it's bad enough as it is. I'm just saying, like, imagine what else they have planned. So, so people compared the Vatican Hall here to a serpent. You've probably seen that, Aaron, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. So many times.
And then, I mean, look, here you got them all. It's literally a viper's den, people. they're in the mouth of the thing. It's too much sometimes. Is that his son even staying with him? Is that Hunter? Like, why would he even be there, you know? He's probably not being denied communion either. Okay, so anyway, I guess I've discussed this enough. Now, I'd imagine there's more details buried here in this, so it's probably worth the read, but I didn't want to spend too much time on it. So TechGate shared that one. And I had a little more to share on the topic. Oh yeah, you're right. In Utopia, it was the name of the Pokemon. You're right, man. And I think I can't remember what the connection was exactly, but there was some type of connection to the gates of hell. Maybe it's unfinished, by the way. That piece of artwork, the gates themselves, it's unfinished. And I think it has something to do with the guy that created it died maybe in January, was born in January, or something related to January in that. So if I happen to have the link up here still, maybe we'll run across it again. But anyway, Epiphany, January 6th, all that also relates to Janus. So you'll see it now that you've been, now that you know about it, you'll probably start seeing it everywhere. Okay, Portunus, doors, windows, those types of things are all references to him, like your port on the ship and like a submarine, those types of references to that as well. Mars is also water, Mars, sea. So we don't usually associate water with Mars, but that's essentially what it is. So beast from the sea could literally be Mars-like, because we tend to associate Mars with Aries, which is fire, but really it's a water sign, because Pisces is in March, and March is after Mars as well. So you actually get your two fishes and water symbolism in that regard there. But I digress. So here's another one about the same topic, but with a little more information. So this one's dated for October 15th. And of course I had to throw in there about how Biden's the second Catholic president after John F. Kennedy. And so anyway, there wasn't a whole lot in here that seemed to be different, but I like to provide a couple different sources when I can. Okay, let's see here. Yes, here is the link. What do you know? Holy Toledo. Look at that, folks. Look at the web address. Did you notice anything strange?
666.
There's literally a 666 in the web address. You gotta be kidding me. Right there. Jeez. Alright. Those are random, aren't they? Like, that's not something you can pick.
It's hard to say.
It's something. Anyway. So here we go. At the Quinarl, and I think I covered this last week, so again, I won't dwell on this too much, but as it relates to what's going on there now, the Quinarl Infernal exhibition is staged and scent breaks out. So while this is all going on, you got the protests against the mandated juice requirements in Italy. They're a little more advanced in that legislation regarding that than we are. So they're already protesting their government pretty heavily. In fact, even Pelosi had to leave while she was there because they were actually naming her, protesting her as well. You even heard Brandon getting chanted there, I think, a couple times in Italy. So it's a global phenomenon. But again, we gotta always remember not to fall into the arms of old Trumpy Poo either, because he did begin the Operation Warp Speed. The Pokemons originate with him. So I think honestly, they've done a better job picking a worse villain. They've done so good with this guy. Like, they're going to even make the Democrats want Trump back, Like, it's setting the stage for a truly scary situation where we're going to have pretty much an unchallenged ruler. We're not going to have a president anymore. We're going to have a dictator pretty much at that point. Because, look, the basic principle here is the elections don't work. You're going to have commerce all out of whack. There'll probably be more of these pandemics or radiological threats, power grid going down, maybe even war. Who knows what stage could be set for what's coming. Not trying to scare people, but it is Halloween time, I guess. So, I do like to. This is the only time of year I like to talk about the doom and gloom. Okay, so anyway, let's get through this a little bit, because it is interesting here that it was an unfinished work, just like with the Denver airport horse. It was actually unfinished also, and it killed its sculptor. So sometimes when they're doing these artworks, I think that the strange details that surround them are worth mentioning. So let's read about this. This is probably the most awaited of the works represented at the exhibition Inferno. So they actually named the exhibition Inferno, and that's after Dante's, which we've discussed that in the past. There's 9 levels of hell to it. Scheduled at the Scuderia del Quinarro from October 15th, 2021. Oh, that's where I saw January. It's actually through winter to January 9th, 2022. So this date right here is specifically associated with Epiphany, the January 6th date as well. That's all Janus related. This also spans the time there where Nimrod's birthday would take place around the time of Christmas. So I don't think you could find anybody to really argue with you that we truly have a Nimrod ruling our country right now. And it's kind of funny because we've said that word in the past and never really knew what it meant, right? And I don't know if we mentioned it on the last show, but Nim is also, I might have just put this in the Discord. Nim is a word, it's Gaelic for poison. So you could say the poisoned rod. Anyway, let's continue. The gate of hell is a mammoth. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped something. The monumental sculpture was commissioned in 1880 to Rodin, who worked on it for almost the next 37 years until his death, leaving it unfinished. The gate of hell, it in mammoth dimensions, being more than 6 meters high and 4 meters wide. a special truck was needed to transport it from the Rodin Museum in Paris to Rome, of which there was only 3 examples in all of Europe. So, yeah, and I've read how, only certain people even get to see it. I mean, it was never like really publicly displayed. So like for them to go through all this trouble just to get it there, I mean, a special truck even, come on, So it clearly was, they wanted it there, Kind of reminds me of, when was it, around the beginning of had the pandemic began yet? When they were setting up all those archways, like the Arch of Baal, for instance. Was that all pre-pandemic?
I'm not sure about the archways.
But you remember those, right?
Well, I know there's already many up already. I don't know about new ones being put up.
And so those were in various locations across the world. In a lot of cases, they were lighting them up with red light at night.
I think these are archways that were already in existence, but yes, they were being lit up.
Well, some of them had been destroyed by like ISIS or whatever they would say, and then they had to reconstitute them. And then some of them, I don't think were originals. I think some of them were copies. But that was the guise and the reason they were like hiding behind, I guess, to justify like putting these archways all over the place, which are basically portals, I guess. So who knows what they're letting in, right? So let's see here. Let's start with this. October 15th, pure coincidence. An important news agency headlined, "Hell conquers the Canaan Stables." Ooh. Still others, labeled as conspiracy theorists, have noted the coincidence of the inauguration of the exhibit with the, what's this word here? The entry into the force of Green Pass for workers. It almost seems to meander a subtle and morbid self-satisfaction toward all that is infernal, Luciferian, and demonic. The same emphasis with which the arrival of Rome of Rodin's Gate of Hell was celebrated leaves much to think. Nobody thought of an exhibition entitled Paradiso, not even to a combination of hell and heaven, without forgetting purgatory, which would have represented a more complete tribute to Dante on his anniversary, perhaps because eternal salvation for many is a topic of little interest. Yeah, at least some people are seeing it for what it is, it sounds like. Wow. Okay, so that's something I didn't pick up the first time. The Canaan Stables. That is where you would find horses, like the October horse, for instance. So, again, we're talking about the black horse last week, so the dark horse, if you will. Okay, so...
Just to give you an idea, we're 2 hours in.
2 hours? Okay.
2 hours.
I was waiting for like a minute part.
Just 2 hours.
So recall that the Pope visited back in March. He went to Iraq. Okay, so remember that when the United States invaded Iraq, one of the things that was recovered here, they did in fact get the body of Nimrod. So again, can't prove it, but my intuition tells me that they probably pulverized his body and put it into these Pokemon jabs, and that this is all a big ritual to like summon him or something. I don't know, but that's just my personal belief. But anyway, I wasn't going to read from this because there's not a whole lot to read, but notice how it depicts a date palm here, which Tamar, the name Tamar, refers to a palm. Kind of means the same thing. And of course, you got dates on a palm. So I think dates relate a lot to prophecy. So to me, I find it kind of interesting. And if you look here, you see the 2 rivers that are featured prominently in Iraq, the Euphrates being one of them. So I wanted to share this prophecy that we talked about a little bit last week. So I won't read it, but I did want to re-emphasize this. So this is probably something that will be happening because it has been happening. Because this is this is from September, but the drying up has been occurring for a while now. So anyway, here's an article on the Euphrates drying up. Now, for anybody that's a serious scholar that really wants to gather all the prophecies together, you can actually find some interesting prophecies about this as well. I think the Quran even has some of these, where there's a hairy creature named Al-Jazazar or something like that, and these sailors are on a ship. Wow, that's kind of interesting, because we'll be talking about that here in a minute. Other sailors, though. So there was an island somewhere in the Mideast area, I guess, and these people were in a storm, and they ended up on this island, and they met this hairy creature, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll take you to my master or whatever. So they go, and here's this dude that's chained up. He's red. I think he's red. And he's chained up. And, he starts asking them questions. And the questions he's asking them concern whether or not certain bodies of water have dried up, and whether or not the date palms were still bearing fruit and stuff like that. I think it was date palms that he actually refers to. So that person being the Antichrist, the Assyrian, or whatever name you want to put on him, but that seems to be the character right there. It seems to indicate that his chains will not be broken until these certain prophecies have hit. So he's just been sitting there waiting for this to happen. So it's kind of an interesting prophecy to compare against the background of all these others. But this is something to pay attention to. So again, with Syria and its tumult, again, the Tishrian dam, Tishrin right here, also reference to September. So I don't know. I just wanted to reference this again, and we're going to truck along here to, I think I had one more Middle East type thing, and that would be it right here. Okie dokie. Knesset launches Abraham Accords caucus on anniversary of agreement. So remember, in 2 Thessalonians 5:3, it talks about saying peace and safety, and then sudden destruction will come upon them as a woman in travail. I can't imagine anything more uncomfortable than being pregnant and like having your water break, right? Or something like at a very inopportune moment. Like imagine during a zombie scene or whatever, that being the moment. Well, that's exactly what the dragon pursuing pregnant woman kind of thing is. It's like she's literally trying to have her child while being pursued by this creature. Well, it just blew my mind. In these movies they're hiding. Remember that one silent place or whatever they're hiding in the bathtub from the creature?
Hang on just a second.
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right, sorry. There was a bunch of noise, and I apologize. I can't mute myself, so all right, go on.
Well, so I just had the realization, like the monster is literally trying to devour the child as it's being born, much like in these horror movies you often see. Like there was that silent place, maybe, when the lady was in the bathtub trying to have a baby, and there was the creature was lurking around. You pointed that out to me. So I see that symbolism a lot too, but I honestly think that's probably a reference to our Revelation 12:1. Well, I think it actually goes through 10. So, yeah, the person presumed to have been Nephilim. Yes, probably. That, or he changed himself somehow. There's some type of word associated with what he did to himself. It's something like Gibborim, I think. It seems to suggest that he maybe wasn't already giant, but became that way. And so when you consider like influenza as giant's blood, essentially, it's almost as if like the world's doing to themselves what Nimrod had done to himself, right? Which would make and make them irredeemable in a sense, I guess. But we're holding out hope that they can still be saved, I guess, because if they're only doing it for this reason or that reason, well, maybe there's some hope for them and they're not blind. But please resist, because this is not going to last forever, folks. This is most certainly temporary. But anyway, let's get through this because this is somewhat relevant. This is October 12th. Several hundred dignitaries and guests, including Israeli government ministers, Knesset members, foreign ambassadors, and mayors, gathered in the Knesset auditorium on Monday afternoon for the launch of the Knesset's Abraham Accords caucus, whose mission is to further the progress made through the U.S. brokered normalization agreements between Israel and United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. Remember, the Antichrist, as he is known, is who confirms a covenant. So one of the other things Trumpy did was start this, which then this guy, Biden, maybe, will be coming along to confirm, right? Or it could be old Jared Kushner, who's sitting right there. But either way, pay attention to this stuff, because it looks like we got the two-beast system right here in front of us with these guys. In attendance was Jared Kushner, who served as senior advisor to father-in-law of former U.S. President Donald Trump and was key negotiator in helping to make the Accords a reality, accompanied by his wife, Ivanka. Kushner recently co-founded, along with media mogul Haim Saban, the Abraham Accords Peace Institute to continue promoting normalization between Israel and her neighbors, which you're not supposed to be doing, folks. You're just supposed to be, because if you were actually serving God, you wouldn't even worry about your neighbors. That's the whole point. So when they're trying to do it on their own strength and making their own peace, and that's what's going to bring the wrath right there. Because they don't want to have to follow God's rules. They want to make up their own. It's just what brought the flood too. You think these people actually know, like, they're not ignorant. That's what really upsets me about these people. If you're just ignorant, sure, but like, these people are not ignorant. They know what they're doing. Okay, so let me get this finished here. The mystery explained. And the angel said unto me, wherefore dost thou marvel? Verse 7. I will tell thee a mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. It's very key. And when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth, just like Rome sitting on 7 hills. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. So 5 from 7 is 2, 1 is, and the other's not yet come. So that means, like, there's 1 to come. The one they're wanting to usher in will be the final 7 or 8, because it talks about an 8th here. And the other one is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue for a short space. So if Biden's taken out of office, that could possibly fulfill this, where he doesn't even fill an entire term, right? So that could be a possibility there. And the beast that was and is not, even he, is the 8th. So we got the 7 short, and we got an 8th. And is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So I'd say we should keep a close eye on what's going on with the UN and this climate agenda stuff, this G20 stuff, because I'm thinking that this is going to make a lot more sense here soon. We actually probably be able to start putting names and countries
in these placeholders right here, because it's G20. So I mean, if it's a G10, I mean, it would almost be obvious at that point. But it's G20, so who knows? But there's the climate things right after that. So, you know, keep your eyes on that, folks. Because again, the green mark is a theme that we see throughout Revelation as well, and that's what they're promoting. And let's talk about Revelation 18 now, because this is the one that leads to the ships and stuff. Babylon has fallen. Oh, I didn't look the link. Yes, Nimrod's GMO, Nephilim for sure. Kind of reminds me of those dudes that sit around and like do gene therapy on themselves and they're like injecting themselves with stuff. It's like, man, what are you doing? But that's basically what Nimrod, I think, was doing. Maybe not in that high-tech manner, but somehow, some way. Verse 1, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become a habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Well, that one verse right there could say it all. You know, if this, what brings the wrath is the corruption of all flesh, well, then the juice could very well be that, right? And then within the same verse, it's discussing the delicacies and abundance of riches and such. So, you know, kind of really does seem relevant here. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. So just like when Abraham left Haran, or Lot was told to leave Sodom and Gomorrah, these are examples kind of like that, right? And so for her sins have reached into heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she had fill to her double. So a double, you know, what's the popular phrase? Double, you're double juiced. You got the double vax or whatever you want to call it. So that, of course, they're extending it to boosters 3 and 4 now, right? But here it is, right here. It's just so funny to me that it's even like a double portion. So, you know, I've met people that have only got one and then hesitate and don't get the other, you know, stuff like that. So maybe you're right. Maybe there's some mercy extended. I don't know. But it seems like the denial of Christ 3 times, you know, might be a factor here. Just something to watch out for. So don't give up on people that haven't went fully. You know, keep trying to show them stuff like this. Be like, hey, you remember, just seriously, you know, why are you in such a hurry? Because it seems like some of these people are just literal lemmings, man. Like, they just can't wait. I didn't argue with the person the other day, but like, I was just asking, I was like, can you give me one good reason why you're even going to, I'm going to get my juice today. My daughter's going to get the juice. I was like, why? Have you waited this long? What's the hurry? Like, you know? So I can only imagine that maybe some of this propaganda and social pressure is maybe getting to some of these people, and they're just like giving in because they can't have a turkey this year for Thanksgiving. So maybe if they go get vaxxed, somebody will get a turkey. Maybe it won't be them, but they're doing their part, right? Sorry, I got carried away with myself. It's hard to believe that this is happening. It's like a Twilight Zone. Okay, so let's get to the part about the ships. Lament over Babylon. So, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail and lament for her. And they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city of Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. So, really fast, right? It could mean a day, but even one way or the other, it's fast. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and of purple and silk and scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and of iron, and of marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and flour, fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things that which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. So, like, we won't be able to check Instagram, or even probably have these streams anymore. A lot of these luxuries and things are going to no longer be accessible. Even going to the grocery store, the luxuries of modern day living, right? So in other words, things are going to change permanently for this habitation. Now, I don't know if that's referring specifically to the United States, because as we discussed, Babylon proper could be headquartered in Rome, but yet she's drunk, everybody's drunk with wrath for fornication, right? So it's a little vague if it's talking at large or in more specific terms here, but the United States doesn't really make anything anymore, so it's kind of up in the air, I guess, who this could be. But we do trade a lot, so that's why I wanted to show the link earlier about the trade ships and stuff. Okay, so let's get down here to where it's talking about here we go. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, and all the company and ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea stood afar off. Well, what are they doing right now? Are they not standing afar off the shore right now? And so think maybe there's some type of attack. These people be seeing it from the shores even. I mean, it's just something to think about. And cried when they saw smoke of her burning, saying,
Uh-oh.
Waiting.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, yes.
You just left for a moment, but there you are.
Okay, so and verse 18, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, the great city wherein which we made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. So remember, they call the Vatican and the Pope the Holy See. Now I know it's spelled a little differently, I think, but still, we got a lot of sea symbolism here. And the Mars is also sea, beast from the sea, could quite very well be related to all this. Okay. Or a literal Godzilla coming up out of the ocean and just destroy all the ships. I mean, why not, right? All right. Well, they do call the new Russian submarine, I think it was it Poseidon? Anyway, they the way they name all these weapons is sometimes suspect to me as well. Makes you wonder why they're doing that, because maybe it's for a spiritual reason. Okay, so that's kind of I wanted to get the gist across about the ships, because then in Acts, now there's a lot to read in Acts here. We're not going to read all of it, but I want to share this. Now this is, maybe it's not related, but there's only a few places where it really focuses on ships. Now this particular storm on the sea is with Paul, I think. Yeah. There's another one then with Jonah, where he's on the ship and, doesn't want to do what he's supposed to do. So the storm comes. So there's a storm in the ship there. There's a storm at sea here with Paul. I shared that last week. And then there's this mentioning in Acts. So let me find where it is that here mentions winter, where they're wanting the winter. Okay, so verse 9. Let's just make sure I shared it. Now, when much time was spent and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading and ship, but also to our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Phoenix. That's spelled a little differently, but we talked about Phoenix a little while back. And there to winter. So they're going to go to Phoenix to winter, which is a haven of Crete and lieth toward the southwest and northwest. So to escape this storm, they want to go and the winter, and then right out of that they get into the storm. So this dark winter stuff that they keep talking about, definitely suspect. Should be paying attention to it. So I wanted to share this for folks to read through this. Also, there's the links here with Jeremiah and Jonah and Romans we went over last week. Read through those, and maybe you'll get some of this ship-related stuff coming out at you. Remember, Christ was also with the disciples when it was storming, and he said, "Peace, be still." So his storm story is a little different than some of the others. But there's a surprising number of ships and storms stories. So could have some clues in those. So Phoenix came up. Remember we talked about Phoenix a couple weeks ago with the X-Men even has a Phoenix character. And I haven't got to see any of these movies really in full. But there is an X-Men Apocalypse movie even, and she features prominently in that. And of course, she goes crazy and gets possessed and kills a bunch of her friends, but she also kills Apocalypse. And it almost seems to suggest that his whole purpose was to just force her to become what she is. Which is kind of strange because there's other parts of that movie that I've seen on YouTube, like his clips, where it shows Apocalypse standing with his 4 horsemen in a desert, which is basically Egypt. And he's using his telekinesis basically to create the pyramids and has all these slaves and stuff for him and stuff. So in other words, it's suggesting that Apocalypse, the villain, is actually like a pharaoh. And he's supposed to be the first mutant. So it'd be like Angel Blood or, the Nimrod type thing that occurred, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, some type of augmentation, Gibborim, Nephilim, so on and so forth. The Apocalypse character is pretty interesting to me. So there could be some interesting things hidden in that movie. If you watch it, let me know. But anyway, we're not going to read through all this, but this was another link I found that I felt would be very useful because it talks about the haven of Crete and how they went there to winter. So Phoenix would be right here on this island of Crete. Okay, so let's move on. You guys did a show recently on the jabby jab, white coat stuff, so on and so forth. Now that lady did make a comment about how she had found some information on the UC Davis website, I think. So I went and found it. I think this is perhaps what she was referring to. So anyway, if you want to learn more about how this creature is actually being used in research, now whether or not it's in the Jabby Jab, that's another matter, but they are doing research on this particular thing because it has these traits that they say are like immortality type traits that in a lab environment it's virtually immortal. Now that doesn't mean it is immoral, because maybe in the wild it has natural predators, or the environmental conditions aren't favorable, etc. But that makes you wonder, is the human body favorable for these things? Because if it is, they could create you're a vessel. You are that lab environment potentially for this to remain in that perpetual state of immortality, I guess. So, are they like, if this were true, are they testing it on us before they use it on themselves, or what's the deal? So again, it kind of reminds me of the Resident Evil 5 plot, where they're combining the parasite and virus together, which, remember, the T virus is the tyrant virus, which again is reference to like Nimrod. So they did combine a parasite and the T virus together to create what they called Ouroboros, which we know is the snake or dragon eating its tail. And they call this the Philosopher's Stone, and then it was going to basically, to use biblical terms here, winnow the people. So basically this was going to be the harvest. They were going to determine who got to live and die, and if you survived this, you were some type of evolved being, so on and so forth. So, I can see where it could be true. Now, whether or not it is, that's another matter, but there is research going on. They made playing cards out of all these different research animals that they work with. This just happens to be the one here. There's another website, or not website, but a link rather, where you can go download all the cards. At first I thought it might be like an Illuminati card game kind of thing, but it looks like it's just like flashcards to help you learn about them. But this is where the Hail Hydra thing comes from. It's actually on the card. It is a little weird that they put it on here because it doesn't seem to fit perfectly. Like it is kind of out of place in my opinion.
Well, I imagine it was just some nerdy people going, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if we put something from Marvel on here about Hail Hydra and see how many people catch it?" Yeah, totally,
well,
man.
I'd say that's what they did. Yeah, I'd say you're right. It was probably the idea of somebody that's on the research team. Now, whether or not, they probably get their giggles from it, sure, maybe they do. I don't know. But they are using these creatures. Now, here at the bottom, there's a couple more links here. So they're using some money to fund this. $1.5 million grant will help make Hydra a better model for studying regeneration. So this research has been going on for a while, long enough that if it could be used, if that's the case. So it is entirely possible again. And so if you read down through this, it's just, obviously it's talking a lot about the people involved, but this part here talks more about the creatures. So constantly renewed stem cells, Hydra, have been referred to as the internal embryo, and the name is fitting. The embryo of any animal, including humans, has the ability to produce all cell types. The ability doesn't usually continue into adulthood, but Hydra constantly renew all of their cells from stem cell populations throughout their entire lives, meaning these creatures have bottomless well for replacing every single cell type in their body. If you or I were injured, say our hands were cut off, there's a specific genetic program that's activated and required to heal the wound, but the hand wouldn't grow back. The same genetic program is activated after injury throughout the animal kingdom. But in some cases, instead of triggering scarring, it triggers regeneration, and thus the missing part is replaced. Some lizards, I think, do this also. And there's a whole lot of creatures that do it, honestly. But the idea here with research, just trying to see if it told us. Maybe it's the other link. I got another one here. Okay, so let's just read this part here. A neuroengineer from Rice University developed methods that can be used to study gene function in Hydra. The team will use the grant to focus on improving methods to study the regeneration of Hydra, including the regeneration of neurons. The team will construct tools to turn genes on and off at specific times and places in a Hydra's continuous development as an adult. Robinson, according to the article, will create tools that will help them study the Hydra's nervous system, including the first microfluidic technologies designed to probe neural activity and behavior in Hydra. I didn't get that link, so let me just drop that one in case anybody's following this story closely. Combined, the genetic tools and phenotyping technologies will help them understand how Hydra can regenerate all of its cells, including the nervous system, and potentially why humans cannot. There's another tool Robinson is developing that those members of her lab will appreciate. One tricky thing about keeping Hydra is that they require a lot of maintenance, and you have to clean the Hydra by hand. What? With the thousands of animals in the lab to manage, the work is time intensive. Using his engineering expertise, they're developing a robot that can carry out the maintenance of the Hydra in their enclosures. He's designing what they call Hydra robots. So they're even developing nano tech to, whoa, okay. So if the claims are true and there is some type of nano stuff accompanying it, it would be for the maintenance of these creatures. That's really bizarre. Well, anyway, here's the next thing that I thought was really strange. So UC Davis also has this program, the continuing umbrella of research experiences, the CURE program. Continuing umbrella of research experiences is how they form the acronym CURE, and it's their umbrella curriculum. So the UC Davis CURE program addresses the pressing need for a diverse cancer research community that reflects the nation's heterogeneity and is sensitive to the specific disparities in cancer health across diverse populations. So, I mean, please remember how Resident Evil started. It was literally them trying to cure cancer and live forever or something like that, and obviously it didn't work out in the movie. So since we're talking about an umbrella, and we've covered this in the past too, so I'm not going to dwell on it. We're about finished. Here is the Umbrella Corporation entry if you want to learn about that from the Resident Evil perspective in the game world. So just to kind of give you a little background, the Umbrella Corporation was a British multinational conglomerate with subsidiaries and active in a variety of industries from the 1980s to the early 2000s. Umbrella had influence in the production and sale of cosmetics, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals, industrial machine production, consumer products, health foods, and transportation industry and tourism. They had a large array of subsidiaries and typical for large-scale corporations, though it was purposefully built to cover up illegal activities. So just think, Moderna, Pfizer, a lot of these outfits could really just be fronts, for like nefarious research that they're wanting to pull off. It's just a thought. Think what people might of Project Veritas, but if you do listen to the interview, the lady, one of the more recent disclosures, the lady was talking about how they blacked out the windows and the quality assurance areas. so that you really didn't know what was going on. So it just makes you wonder what they were really hiding. Why would they need to black out the windows, right? So anyway, this is fiction, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it is disturbingly close to reality with each passing day. So again, I would like to just share it. But the T-virus project is what most people know as the zombie virus. It's actually the T-virus, which stands for tyrant virus. And to create that, they used the Ebola virus because they had to find a virus that killed fast. And so that's why the zombies really look the way they do and stuff, is because they really just have Ebola, which causes your insides to liquefy and you just bleed through all your holes and stuff like that. So pretty terrible experience. But they had to find a virus with a high death rate, because what it would do is it kill the person and then reanimate them, right? So again, Revelation 9 vibes, where they seek death and can't find it, this type of stuff. So if you read through this, you can get some interesting background on the story and how it unfolds. There's a lot of weird words used in here that kind of remind me of things like, for instance, the G virus is the Golgotha virus, which Golgotha was where Christ was crucified on that hill. So clearly they're using certain buzzwords for a reason. Now, there's also the blue umbrella. We won't read about this, but I think this is actually the military arm of Umbrella. But anyway, and then the last thing is this Hierophant. And then we kind of did a little bit. The movies are pretty wild and gory and crazy, but these entries here are pretty mild, I think. So you can still get the most useful information without watching the movies. And yeah, here's this link for Hit. In fact, I think these entries pull from comics, all the games, all the movies. So instead of having to watch any of those movies or play any of the games or read anything, you can simply read this article, and it would have everything synthesized together in a very coherent way that you can understand it. And remember, yes, it has one extra letter, but Corona and Raccoon are anagrams of one another too. So I find that kind of interesting as well. Okay, so this Hierophant thing, the reason I wanted to bring this up again is because people are still doing videos on iPad Goat. And I have learned a couple things every now and then when I rewatch it or see somebody else's video or whatever. And then it occurred to me, I didn't spend enough time on the website. Because some of these characters actually have descriptions and names and such. So I wanted to focus on one in particular. I also found it interesting, this Destroyer character, Shiva, is blue-skinned, but the name of this character is the Blue Child. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, the one that caught my attention was this Madame Q. Now, mind you, this was created back in 2012 before any Q talk had ever even been thought of or mentioned. So, for them to use that, I think that's really interesting because, and forgive me for the image here, but if you look at her skirt right here, let me see if I can get the, okay. All right, so right here on her skirt, you'll find fig leaves. So again, a reference like the parable of the fig tree that we find in Matthew 24. Matthew 24:32, more pointedly. So she's trapped in this tower wearing a fig skirt, right? Now up on the wall, she's got all these hash marks where she's been counting the days, right? She looks really tired, and now their description for the character doesn't seem to be very adequate. In fact, it seems almost inappropriate the way they explain her here. But it seems like that's usually what you get when they answer questions about it. They usually don't answer them the way that you think they should, because I don't think they're really being too truthful But anyway, very few people, if any, have pointed out that she's wearing a fig patterned skirt. So I think this does represent some type of spiritual, I don't know if it's actually Israel or whatever, but they do relate this lady to Q, so I thought that was kind of weird. Also, what I think was interesting was this Draco character has one eye, one left eye, and the mark of an idle shepherd in Zechariah 11:17 is idle shepherd will have their right eye darkened and their right arm withered up, like the fig tree in Matthew 24 that doesn't have fruit. And so this one actually has a pretty decent description. So it describes Draco here, the floating head, which has a goatee right here with the all-seeing eye pyramid, just like the one you find on our dollar bill. Describes him here as the sorcerer, an unseen hand and spirit of madness, seeking ever more control through trickery, lies, poisons, false flag events, wars, and mountains of bureaucratic and legal framework to siphon off the energy of the inhabitants of the earth. He fears the light of day, and he fears the life itself, and operates in the shadows. His greatest power is his hold on the issuance of currency. So, I mean, quite literally, the infrastructure bill is kind of like a fruit of his, if you think about it. So then the mandate hidden in that would be a worm of sorts, you know, a very rotten spot in that fruit. So again, the mark of the beast is economic. So, you know, I just find it interesting that they named that character Draco. Now, the Great Pyramid has shafts in it, and a couple of the shafts relate to Orion, and then, you know, on one side, and then, well, one's maybe not both of them are Orion, but one of them goes to Orion's belt, and the other one to another constellation to his left, I think. And then the right side of the pyramid goes to Ursa Major, which is the big bear, and then Draco. So when they would create rulers in the pyramid, they would have the consummation of the marriage, I guess you could say, and then the hope was that they would trap the spirit of one of these stars, or maybe a combination of the four, into this vessel, this being, to create their ruler. And so Draco was a component of that, for the pyramid anyway. So your pharaohs basically were in charge of issuing the currency, doing the laws, so on and so forth. So I don't know, just found it really interesting it's like, no matter, this is very old, but it's like it's something you can always go back to and kind of find things. A lot of predictive programming in here. And then in Candling too, Enter the Stars pointed this out, how you put a flashlight to an egg and you can see the, you know, what's inside, and this is how they grow the juice, the Pokemon. Well, before they started doing it the mRNA way anyway. Did you want to say something?
Nope.
Oh, okay. You cleared your throat, I thought.
Yeah, well, I did that a few times. I can't mute myself, sorry.
So, what I thought was interesting is there might be a design on the eye. I couldn't quite tell. Not saying it's a Hydra, but it might just be a reflection, actually, now that I think of it. Yeah, it's a reflection of what's here. So that's all that is. I thought maybe it was a symbol or something, a clue. But yeah, it's pretty interesting here. So we kind of have, I guess this would be the Draco overseeing this type of thing. So maybe their Antichrist or their fallen angel agenda requires, you know, like cloning or who knows what they're doing. I don't know. But I just found these things interesting. Oh, they're calling this one here Prey. So it's not a character description, but the scene itself, they kind of Lady Heliotree, and so the Statue of Liberty that gets destroyed, they're calling it that. which this is all Hierophant. So they're saying she's like related to the sun, Lady Sun. That's what they're basically calling her there. Anyway, that's all I had for tonight. I know I ended up going a long time anyway, but at least I was able to get it all out there. So hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. And note how the Constantino wire goes in. It's to keep you in, not to keep people out. So, oh yeah, they're using dogs now to search people for the charagma, for the virus or whatever you want to call it, and airports and stuff. So we're starting to see those precedents now for them using animals. I don't even see how that could work. But you shared in the past, I think, about the DARPA dogs, right? The robot dogs.
Yeah.
So, you know, I say that's where we're going with that. Oh, good Lord. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, folks. I hope you found it informative, intriguing.
And thanks for coming to the backup channel for those who were here and sticking it out and sharing if you could. And yeah, it's just going to take time to get this backup channel going if I want to at all. Mostly I want people to please go to Odyssey. The link is pinned at the top here, but it's also in the description box. You know, that box that nobody looks at, but it is a box that is below the video. So please check it out. And I'll upload this to the main channel in a week when I'm allowed to. And even if we go live next week, I'll upload this on the same day. So thanks for all the time you spent and all the work you did for us today.
Hey, no problem. It's a lot of fun. It just occurred to me, I always see people like wearing horse heads and acting silly and stuff.
Yes.
Maybe it's a nod to this. Like, you know what I mean? I just never thought much of it, but because the people I see do that sometimes do have ties to like Satanism and stuff. So maybe they're like horsing around.
And also there's some predictive programming where they make that like the popular mask or thing. You know, you see it on TikToks and things like that, and everybody's just kind of doing it. I saw some gal that was doing it for workout videos wearing a horse head, so it seems like it's just some kind of popular thing.
Well,
but
just like the ALS, and I mean, even the mask itself is just like these fads, you know, are all probably very occultic rituals.
Yes, that was the word I was trying to think of. So yeah, thanks very much for your time, and thanks for you know, if there's a sound problem, sorry guys, we'll try to work it out later, but I only found out today I had the strike, so we were working on kind of short time, so we'll either get it figured out or be back on the regular channel next week anyway.
Thank you so much. Many meows.
Yes.
And be careful out there, folks.
Shalom, my friend. Good night. Meow.
When the sun goes down, I know I'll be fine.
Things were going fine and now the clouds are rolling in. It's like as soon as I get up, things will start caving in. Ups and downs on the seesaw called life. The pain in the night, it can cut like a knife. But hold your head up high, give your life to the sky. Be a living sacrifice, give the Lord your life. The clouds are rolling out now, but they'll be back in. I love my life. Every second I live, every second I'll give. Being thankful for what I got. Air conditioner when it's hot, a heater when it's not. Don't let the pain from the rain get above you, baby. Just keep your head in the clouds, it's all lovely, baby.
I'm steady searching for the sun. All I'm seeing is the rain. Hard to maintain when all I feel is pain. When the sun goes down, but there'll be better days, no need to complain. The storms will move away, all I have to do is keep faith. I know I'll be fine. I'm steady searching for the sun. All I'm seeing is the rain. Hard to maintain when all I feel is pain. When the sun goes down, but there'll be better days, no need to complain. The storms will move away, all I have to do is keep faith. I know I'll be fine.
Even if the sun ain't shining, I'm walking through life excited. When I wake up in the morning and I stop and realize that the only sun that matters is the one I got inside. Don't worry about the weather or the struggles of life. He'll be right by your side, no matter day or night. Always a shining bright, he'll be your guiding light. So if the sun ain't shining, he's always there to remind me that through this darkness I'm not walking blindly. The word is my guide, I use scriptures like weapons. Sword of the spirit at my side for protection. I'm standing firm in my helmet of salvation, building my life on solid ground and foundation.